Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. I'm Dr. Atika Masood. And my dear students, we are meeting after a long break of the summer vacations. And I hope you remember that we have done the molecular basis of the carcinogenesis. We have done about the nomenclature of the carcinogenesis. We have done the differences of the benign and the malignant types. And now we are going to do the most important thing, and that is the carcinogenesis and the carcinogens. Today, as you see here, we are going to talk about lots of the carcinogens, whether these are the environmental agents, whether these are the chemical agents, radiations, viruses, as well as there are tobacco, smokes, asbestosis, insecticides, certain dyes, and the hormones. And my dear students, just remember this thing. These are the carcinogens that are present in your environment, and there are other carcinogens which you are going to inherit, and these are the inherited defects in the DNA, and this could be there could be a defect in the DNA which is going to go in the future generations. So here is a SCQ for you people. A 50-year-old. So the most important thing is 50-year-old man, and he is working in a plastic factory. Just remember this thing, that this plastic factory is a very important in this scenario, has experienced weight loss. So we are talking about a cachexia. And the constitutional symptoms, in the constitutional symptoms we have vomiting for last 8 months. So whatever it is going on, it is very rapid in onset and just few months history, and the CT scan is going to show the mass of 13 centimeter of size in the right lobe of the liver. So there is something going on in the liver for last 8 months, and because of that it is going to cause the weight loss and the vomiting. And on the microscopic examination, after the biopsy has been done, the microscopic examination has revealed out it is turned out to be angiosarcoma. I hope that every one of you remember that angiosarcoma means a mesenchymal tumor of the vascular origin. So we are going to talk about that which chemical agent is going to be responsible for this. So by this scenario, you are able to get this, that today we are going to talk about all the chemical agents, all the carcinogens, whether they are chemical agents, whether they are environmental agents, or whether they are food agents. So you are going to answer me after listening the whole lecture, and we are going to mark your attendance accordingly. So we are just going to revise our previous lecture. What is the carcinogenesis? Carcinogenesis is a multi-step which is essential for the development of the cancer, and it is basically due to the involvement of two important genes. One is tumor suppressor genes, and you, my dear student, you all remember P53, RB genes, neurofibromatosis type 1 gene, type 2 genes, and then we have oncogenes like RAS oncogenes, ABL. We have talked about lot of oncogenes which are the mutagenic in characteristics. And then there is a concept of the gatekeeper and the caretaker concept. We have talked about in the cell cycle that there are the gatekeeper genes which are very much essential, that if there is any mutation going on, these genes are responsible for the suppression of the tumor. So these are called as tumor suppressor genes. And if there are any problem in the proto-oncogenes and they become mutant, then they become oncogenes. And then we are having a caretaker genes. These caretaker genes are just like doctors or the nurses, and they are taking care of these cells. Whenever there is something going wrong in a human body, we are going to go towards the doctor, and he is going to take care of us. So just like this, whenever there is some injury to the cell in a DNA, this DNA is going to be repaired by the DNA repair genes. And we have talked about all of these tumor suppressor genes, oncogenes, and DNA repair genes in detail in our previous lecture. But just remember this thing. If there is something wrong with this gatekeeper and caretaker concept, and this is not going to happen, then what is going to happen? There will be the tumor progression. And because of the tumor progression, there will be the heterogeneity from the single cell. First, there is a mutation in a single cell, and from this single cell, there are the multiple cells which are going to grow, and they are going to cause the tumor progression. And for their growth, what we need? We need vessels for their growth, for the blood supply and for the food supply. So, angiogenesis is going to be provided to them. If you are going to remember this diagram, we have done it previously also, that there is a sequence, and this sequence is called as adenoma carcinoma sequence, or a second hit hypothesis. What is going to happen? Here you can see that there is a very normal colon, but if there is one mutation that is going to happen, or there is a germline mutation, we are going to talk about the APC genes, which is also a oncogene. If there is any mutation, this is going to be called as first hit. So because of this first hit, this normal colon is going to be converted into the mucosa at the risk. So it needs a second hit and the multiple mutations to occur to become and grown into the carcinoma. No single gene is enough to cause this carcinoma. We need first hit, we need second hit. In our case, we have talked about previously that there are APC beta catenin genes, and these are going to cause the adenomas, and then these adenomas require proto-oncogene mutations, like we have talked about the RAS genes. Then there will be the RAS mutation, and because of this RAS mutation, we are going to have the development of the carcinoma. And my students, just remember this thing: from the development of the adenoma to the carcinoma, there are multiple other genes are also involved, like P53, loss of heterozygosity, SMAD2, SMAD4, or there are the telomerase which are going to cause the immortality of these cells. So no single gene is enough to cause this thing. So there are multiple hits, like just like this. There are multiple things that are required to cause the carcinoma. So we have talked about the DNA repair gene defect. It is just like a spell checker. Whenever there is any problem in the spelling, your spell checker is going to correct it. So whenever there is any problem in the cell, this program is, or this gene defect genes are going to come into play, and these are going to correct it. We have HNPCC, hereditary non-polyposis coli genes, TGF beta genes, beta catenin, BAX genes, which are going to regulate the apoptosis. Then we have xeroderma pigmentosum, which are very important in UV fixing genes, and today we are also going to talk about ultraviolet radiations. Then we have ataxia telangiectasia, in which ATM genes are involved. Then we have Bloom syndrome, in which there are defective helices, and then we have Fanconi anemia. So if we are going to talk about the carcinogenesis, I've just told you that this is the multi-step, and we need initiators and the promoters. So we need the initiation process, and later on we do need a promotion of the carcinogenesis. So both of them are very, very essential to happen. Neither can cause cancer on its own. So if there is an initiation, you have just seen in a multi-step that it is only a mucosa at risk. You need a promotion. So you need multiple agents to develop into the carcinogenesis. So the initiators are the main carcinogens, and they are going to cause mutations. They are going to cause the mutational activations of the oncogenes, like RAS oncogenes, and because of the oncogenic mutations of the RAS, we need that these mutated cells do not need growth factors because they are going to develop their own growth factors. So no external growth factors will be required. Even reduced growth factor are going to cause the increase in the growth, in the rapid growth of these cells, and they are very much less responsive, or they are going to lose the response to the growth inhibitory signals. So they are going to grow. There will be the tumor progression. So then comes the promoters, which are the second most important thing. Actually, promoters are not carcinogenic, but they are very important because they become effective if they are going to come after the initiators, and they are going to enhance the proliferation of the initiated cells of this mutate type, and this is very essential. Here we can talk about it. This is a very much normal cell, with this we are going to talk about. Then there is some initiator is going to come, and this initiator is going to cause the initiated cell. But here you can see this is a very much normal cell. Nothing is going to happen like that. But here comes your promoters, or promotion is going to occur, and there will be the development of the pre-neoplastic lesions. This we have talked about, that from the normal it is going to happen or develop into the adenoma, and then there will be the progression in which there are multiple genes are going to be involved, and there will be the malignant tumors will be developed, and this is going to be called as progression. So first phase is initiation, then is the promotion, and the third one is the progression, and this is the multi-step process. Here this diagram is very important. Here you can see that the scientists have taken 6 groups. In the first group, they have, this X stands for the initiator. They have just applied the initiators, but they have not applied any promoters. So there will be no tumor. No tumor is going to happen. In the group 2, they have applied the initiator, and then there are multiple promoters are going to occur, and the result will be the tumor production. Then in group 3, what is going to happen, that this initiator is some genetic process, happens early in the life, and there is a long span in which there is no promoter is coming, but later on life there are the promoters that are going to come, and they are going to cause the promotion, and there is also the tumor development. And group 4, what they have done, that they have applied the promoters first and the initiator at the end. But I have told you, this initiation is the first step. So this is required at the earlier step. So what is going to happen? No tumor. In group 5, they have just given the promoters, and there is no tumor because there are no initiators. If there are no initiators, there will be no tumor. In group 6, what they have done, they have applied the initiators, there are promoters, but these, after the initiator, there is a gap between the promoters. Because of this gap, the sequence will be broken, and there will be no tumor development. So by this, we are going to see that in group 2 and group 3, the tumor has developed because the initiator is the first thing, and it is followed by the promoters, and this is the most essential thing, that the initiator promoter sequence should be followed during the time period, and there should be no break between the promoters like in the group 6. So if I'm going to talk about the series of the reactions that are going to take place in the initiation process, what are these? That there are carcinogenesis. In the carcinogenesis, the first thing that is required is a carcinogen. Sometimes this carcinogen is going to act directly, but sometimes there is the metabolic activation is required by the P450 enzyme. If this carcinogen is going to detoxify, it is going to excrete out into the urine, into the stool, or into the bile. But if it is going to develop into the metabolic activation, then there will be the development of the electrophilic intermediates. If these electrophilic intermediates are not going to be detoxified, then they are going to bind to the DNA and there will be the adduct formation. Now here comes the role of the DNA repair genes. I have told you these are the spell checker genes. So this adduct formation is going to be corrected by the DNA repair genes and we are going again have a normal cell. But if these DNA repair genes are not working, what is going to happen? There will be the permanent DNA lesions and this is going to cause the formation of the initiated cell. So here is the end step of this process of initiation. And after this, there will be the cell proliferation, altered differentiation after the application of the promotion chemicals or environmental agents. And because of this, there will be the altered differentiation of this initiated cell. And this pre-neoplastic colon is going to develop into the malignant neoplasm by the help of the additional mutations. So my dear students, here you have seen that this DNA repair is the first step and because of that there will be the permanent DNA lesions, but there is only an initiated cell has been produced. This is a pre-malignant condition. We have not developed any malignancy till there will be the promotion step, and this promotional step also needs additional mutations. Otherwise, if there are no mutation, the cell will be repaired in our cell cycle. So, we need multiple steps to go wrong for the formation of the malignant neoplasm. Now, we are going to talk about the carcinogens which are going to cause the cancers. There could be the chemical carcinogens, there could be radiation carcinogens, there could be infectious pathogens. In our next lecture, we are going to talk about the viruses and the bacteria which are going to cause the carcinogenesis. Then there is a hereditary predisposition. We have talked about the Fanconi anemias. We have talked about the hereditary non-polyposis coli. We have talked about neurofibromatosis. Then there is a hormone imbalance. We have talked about the estrogen progesterone, which is going to cause the hyperplasia, and later on this hyperplasia is going to be converted into the endometrial carcinoma. Then cancer following subchronic diseases. The best example that you can give in this category is the inflammatory bowel disease. In inflammatory bowel disease, we can see that because of the chronic diseases, there is a development of the carcinoma, colorectal carcinoma. Like this, we have a stomach carcinoma because of the long exposure of the infectious agent of H. pylori, and also because of the some other chronic diseases that are going to occur there. So here again we are going to talk about there is some chemical, physiological or biological agent which is going to cause the initiation in the normal cell. Here you, my dear student, you can see that this is just the transformed cell but a very normal cell. Here you need a promotion, so cell is going to multiply, but again the cell is very much normal. Then this, after this promotion, there will be the malignant cell. Here you can see disturbed NC ratio, a much bigger cell with less cytoplasm in it, and then there will be the progression process is going to happen. So what these phytochemicals are going to do, that they are going to cause the detoxification, and they are going to inhibit the cell proliferation, anti-inflammatory activity, they are going to induce the apoptosis, they are going to inhibit the angiogenesis, promoting the cell differentiation and inhibit the cell proliferation. So these phytochemicals are very important to suppress all of these all of these things, and they try to retain the cell into the normal shape and the normal physiology. So now we are going to talk about major chemical carcinogens. Just remember this thing, we are going to have two types of chemical carcinogens. One are direct acting agents, in which We have indirect acting agents. We have alkylating agents like dimethyl sulfate, beta propyl acetone, diapoxybutane, and anti-cancer drugs which are normally used like cyclophosphamide, chloramburazole, and nitrous urease. You must have talked about these anti-cancer drugs in the pharmacology. Then there are acylating agents like 1-acetyl imidazole and dimethyl carbamyl chloride. These are all the direct acting carcinogens. They do not need anything, any converter to convert them into the carcinogens. But now we have second category in which we have procarcinogens that require metabolic activation by P450 enzyme or other things to become activated into the carcinogens. Like in this category, we have polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons like benzopyrenes. You must have heard in your organic chemistry benzathracene, benzpyracene, and dimethyl benzathracene 712. Then there are aromatic amides, azodides, benzidine, and acetylaminofluorine, beta-naphthylamine. We are going to talk about this beta-naphthylamine in the bladder carcinoma also. Then there are the other agents like natural plants and microbial things. As you can see, in the nature there are some things which are also going to cause the carcinogenesis, and the most important ones are the aflatoxins, and we have glycofulvin, cyzanne, betel nuts, which are going to cause the aflatoxins are going to cause the hepatocellular carcinomas like carcinomas in the liver. And then we have other categories in which we have nitrosamines, vinyl chloride. Just remember this vinyl chloride. This is very important because this is going to cause the angiosarcoma, and I have asked you this question in the first slide also. So here is the answer of your, if you are listening very carefully, then you can know what is the answer of that. Nickel, chromium, insecticide, and fungicide. Then we have polychlorinated biphenyls. Here you can see in 10 foods, your fries, sun, your mushroom, and sausages. These are all going to cause the cancer. Now we are going to talk about direct acting agents. I have just told you that they do not need any metabolic conversion to become carcinogenic. They are generally weak carcinogenic and they are not going to produce tumors, as I've already told you, and mainly they are the chemotherapeutic agents. Then we have alkylating agents. Unlike the other carcinogens, the alkylating agents do not require metabolic conversion, and they're going to bind directly to the DNA, RNA, and the proteins. And by binding to these, what are they going to do? Basically, as you all know, that guanine is going to pair with thiamine. Normally, guanine is going to pair with cytosine, but after the binding of the alkylating agents, what is going to happen? That guanine is so modified that is going to pair with the thiamine. Normally in the body, thiamine is going to combine with the adenosine, AT bond. You must remember this thing, that we have AT bond and CG or GC bonding. But here there will be the reversal of the bonding, and we are having the GC bonding because of the binding of the alkylating agents to the DNA and the RNA. So because of this mispairing constitution, there will be the point mutations, and because of this point mutation, we are having the malignancy. Then we are having the indirect acting agents. These chemicals are required for the metabolic conversion, as I have already told you, and the most important category is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and these are present in the fossil fuels, animal fat, like boiling of the animal fat, which are mainly done in the soap factories, and also they are present in the smoke meals and the fishes which are taken in the especially in the Japan region, and also nowadays in many hotels these are being offered. Then there are benatrazine, which is going to produce the cancer when it is going to paint, and mainly they are going to cause the skin underneath the skin. They are going to cause the fibrosarcomas, which are the malignant tumors of the fibrous component. Then there are the benzopyrenes, which are going to cause the lung cancer because of the combustion of the tobacco in the smoke, and this is going to cause the lung cancer. Here you can see that these factories are going to produce so many, these chimneys are going to produce so many smoke, and the carcinogens are going to be going out, and the people are dying just because of all of this smoke. So the principal active product in all these hydrocarbons are basically epoxide. These epoxides are going to bond the covalent adducts. We have talked about in our second or third slide that there will be the adduct formation in the DNA, and because of the adduct formation, there will be, if there will be no DNA repair, there will be the permanent DNA damage, and this is going to be the first step in the initiation. And in the chimney sweep, this is going to cause the scrotal cancers and also the lung cancers of the cigarette smokers. So I just want to give you a brief introduction. We have just talked about the direct acting agents, and we have talked about the indirect acting agents. So these carcinogens are a two type. Indirect needs the metabolic activation by P50 enzymes, and these indirect are going to convert it into the electrophilic molecules by the metabolic activation. But these directs do not need any metabolic activation. So after this, there will be the adduct formations in the DNA, and there will be the mutation, and because of this mutation, we are going to have a initiated cell. But if there is a DNA damage, cell is going to go for apoptosis, then this is a good news for all the people. Then we have aromatic amines and azodyes, and these are also needs to be converted into the metabolites before they become carcinogenesis, and they are going to bind to the DNA, and they are going to alter its shapes, and normally they are going to use in the aniline dyes and the rubber industries, and they are going to cause, I've talked about it, that beta-naphthylamine, normally this MCQ comes in your university, and very normally it has also been asked in the Viva that beta-naphthylamine is going to cause the bladder cancer. Basically, this beta-naphthylamine, which is going to be which is being used in the aniline dyes and the rubber industry, is going to be absorbed through the skin and the lungs, but it is going to cause the cancer in the bladder, which is suggesting that basically it is the ultimate or the metabolite which is going to be excreted in the urine that is going to cause the carcinogenesis. So it is basically needs to be converted into its metabolite to cause the cancer. Now we have nitrosamines and amides, and they can cause gastric carcinomas, and because in the acidic environment they can form amides, or they become carcinogenesis, and these all foods derive from the nitrosation of the nitrate, because they are used as a preservative. They need bacterial action, and they are going to be converted there, and they are going to cause the gastric carcinomas. Here you can see that you're going to the very fancy restaurants and you are ordering fast food. So whether these fast food are going to cause the cancers, or these are going to cause the artery clogging for foods. So all these fries, all your burgers are basically damaging your health. So carcinogenesis in the foods are involved basically aflatoxin. I've talked that This aflatoxin is basically a fungus which is going to go in the fungus aspergillus, and this is going to cause the hepatocellular carcinoma. Aflatoxin and hepatitis B are going to work together and they're going to produce the hepatocellular carcinoma. We are going to talk about the whole process of the causation of the hepatitis B, inshallah, in tomorrow's lecture. Then in the food category, we have cycasine, which is another alkaloid which is found in the cycad nuts or the certain palm trees. And they are going to basically these aflatoxins and this cycasine. Both of these are going to act by the by the interference in the DNA synthesis. Then we have another category which is called as saffron, which is an essential oil, and this is very much carcinogenic, and this is normally used in the flavoring industry. So I just want to summarize each and everything. I have talked about the chimney sweepers, and we have discussed that these chimney sweepers are having the carcinogens, which is the benzopyrene, and this is going to cause the scrotal cancer. And then we have aspergillus, which is aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is going to grow on this aspergillus, and this is going to cause the hepatocellular carcinoma or liver cancer. Then we have cigarette smoke. In cigarette smokes, we have multiple carcinogens like benzene, like formaldehyde, like acetaldehyde, butadiene, and these are going to cause the not only the lung but also the other cancers like bladder cancers also. And then the last but the most important thing is the ultraviolet radiation. Basically, the UVAB light is able to form the pyrimidine dimers in the DNA, and because of the formation of the pyrimidine dimers, this type of DNA damage is going to be repaired by the nucleotide exchange repair pathway. But if this pathway is not working, what is going to happen that this DNA damage will go prolonged, and because of the formation of the pyrimidine dimers, there will be the development of the squamous cell carcinoma. These ultraviolet radiations have been seen to cause cancers in the survivors of the Nagasaki and the Hiroshimas. Like there is a marked increase in the leukemias, and I have talked about that leukemias are the basically WBCs or the blood cancers. And normally the leukemias that they have been reported are by the AMLs and the CMLs, and the development of this AML and CML is after 7 years. But there is an other finding that after so many years, the patient has also developed solid tumors. And these solid tumors include the breast tumors, colon tumors, thyroid, and the lung carcinomas. And that happens after a very long time. So, there was the initiation was done by these ultraviolet radiations, but there were some promoters that come to play the role, and then later on they develop into the solid tumors. And also there were the previously in the 4 or 5 decades back, when the x-rays were doing, there will be no protective measures, and the many ultrasonologists, radiologists have developed carcinomas. But now because of the protection devices, there will be a very decreased number because of the UV rays. Here you can see that because of the UVB light, there is an initiation process, but we do need a promotion process, and there will be the continuous exposure of the UV light or TPA, and then because this initiation process was irreversible because of the genetic changes, and there will be the initiated cell which is going to be developed, and then because of the clonal expansion, epigenetic changes, lots of the angiogenesis is going to happen. This pre-malignant papilloma, from this initiated cell, we are having the papilloma development, and this premalignant is going to be converted into the squamous cell carcinoma. So, dear students, just remember, because of the initiation process, we have initiated cell. We need other genetic changes to convert this into the other benign lesion or the premalignant lesion, and still this level, it is reversible. It can go back to its normal cell. But once there will be the clonal expansion, there is the epigenetic changes, once there will be the angiogenesis, this is going to be converted into the squamous cell carcinoma. So, if I'm going to summarize the whole lecture, there is a carcinogenic exposure, and because of this carcinogenic exposure, there is a absorption of that, and there will be the biotransformation. There are two possibilities. One is that it is going to be inactivated and excreted out by the kidneys, liver, or the lung. But if it is going to activate into the active metabolites, what are going to happen? There will be the DNA ducts formation, there will be the chromosomal breakage, missegregation that we have talked about, that there will be the thymidine and CG bonding, and other processes are also going there. These are the genotoxic mechanism, but also non-genotoxic mechanism like immunosuppression. More oxygen species are going to be produced. We are going to have receptor activation, epigenetic silencing, and because of this, of the altered signal transduction pathways and the genomic damage, this is going to cause the genetic instability. And because of this genetic instability, and if the second promoter genes are also coming, or the promotion is going to come, then there will be the loss of proliferation control, there is a resistance to the apoptosis, and all these multiple processes and the step is going to cause the cancer. Thank you very much, my dear students.